Greetings. This is a very special place. This is a stand of sequoia redwood trees in Lincoln Park in West Seattle where I live. And I often come here to tune in, to give, to receive, and work this 7 directions practice every time I'm here. So I want to speak about the directions. I want to talk about the 4 and the 3 to make the 7. The 4 are the medicine wheel, the cardinal directions. Yeah? So north, east, south, and west is how we typically learn these. And I'll speak of them as the rise, the reach, the rest, and the roots. In the northern hemisphere, its sunwise is clockwise. In fact, the clock is built on the movement of the sun from the northern hemisphere's point of view where it was designed, as is our chart wheel, which moves in the clockwise direction, at least through the primary motion, which is a result of Earth's spin, the diurnal motion. Earth spinning west to east, and so what do we notice? The heavens rising in the east and resting in the west. And so I will often walk around this important tree for me in a sunwise motion, which in the northern hemisphere is from the east to the south, to the west, to the north. In the southern hemisphere, we'll look the opposite direction here. So now you're facing east, I'm facing west. In the southern hemisphere, sunwise is in the other direction, counterclockwise. Yeah? Where things still resting in the west, rooting in the south, rising in the east, reaching in the north, resting in the west. So there's a difference, and we'll look at why, from the northern and the southern hemispheres, and the direction actually of the movement of sky, of sun, of moon. The zodiac looks upside down from one place to the other. The planets during the course of the day in the northern hemisphere moving from the left to the right if you're facing south where the reach is. But in the southern hemisphere, the reach is in the north, and the planets are moving from the right to the left by day. We'll look into this more, primary motion, secondary motion. Why is there this difference between hemispheres? By the way, between the tropics, between, above the Tropic of Capricorn and below the Tropic of Cancer, the sky works at sometimes like northern hemisphere and other times like southern hemisphere. It gets more confusing. Things get more confusing, above Arctic Circle and below Antarctic Circle as well. So I'm going to start just kind of I'll start in Seattle, northern hemisphere, pretty far from the equator, because here I am. And I will work these directions in this sunwise clockwise motion, northern hemisphere. But for now, let's just speak about them a little bit. I'll just face east. I'll break the rules a little bit. Because usually I wouldn't want to really speak about south unless I'm facing south, or the reach unless I'm working the reach. But for the sake of film and to teach, here we go. Yeah? So the rise, the reach, the rest, the roots. And that way we can make it universal. Northern hemisphere spinning clockwise, southern hemisphere spinning counterclockwise, but either way, the rise, the reach, the rest, the roots, and everywhere, because Earth is falling from the west towards the east, the heavens are rising in the east, resting in the west. So the rise is always new. It only ups, the fountain of youth. In fact, if you sit east, and I highly recommend you do, especially if you do so at the equator, you'll notice that stars that rise south of east head to the south, and stars that rise north of east head to the north. And it's permanently painting the Aries glyph. This, I believe, is why this is the Aries glyph. I know we say ram's horns. If we took the ground away, we would see this motion with a horizon. What does that look like? So there's something in our glyphs that teach us about sacred astronomy too. I haven't decoded all of them. We'll look at that in the sky. Aries, Pisces. So the rise, something new. And to study these directions, I study with the sky. I'm a student of the sky. I'm a student of the marriage of heaven and earth and the way that they participate one with another. So I've learned about the directions, elemental connections from several different elders of several different indigenous tribes and wisdom keepers, you know. And I've learned it very differently here in the Northern Hemisphere than down in Peru, for example. And I think it should be differently, right? Just like the water vortex in the opposite direction, so it is with the rise, the reach, the rest, the roots in the Northern Hemisphere versus the rise, the reach, the rest, the roots in the Southern Hemisphere. So I suggest you learn from the directions themselves. And yes, you can. And my practice, which I invite you to connect to when it's warm enough to do so, is to head out at around sunset with a bunch of blankets and stuff and prepare to sit for 4 to 6 hours and give yourself to a direction. East, I'm Brett. I give myself to you tonight. Will you please give yourself to me? I am your student. I invite you as my teacher. And they could land a spaceship in the northwest, you know, and here I am giving myself to you intently and witnessing what you do. And you'll see East. And if you get around the world, you'll see how East does different things depending on where you are. It's an amazing happening, but one thing is true everywhere: because the earth is falling that way, the East only rises, it's only new. And so it is a place to go when we are looking for a new breath in our life. We're starting a new course together here, the rise. You know, or I want to shift perspective. I'm stuck in this pattern. How can I approach this situation that keeps coming around in a new way? Fountain of youth, only new. It's coming from somewhere, and it's also going somewhere. So from the rise to the reach, and here the height of the light in the Northern Hemisphere, south, due south, is the reach, halfway between sunrise and sunset. In the Southern Hemisphere, due north, halfway between sunrise and sunset. We call that what? Midheaven, quadrant midheaven. Height of the light, shortest shadow. So what's that mean? That's my angel being. That's my highest self. And I like this posture. I give myself in this direction until I'm sweating, until I'm in pain. Actually, here where I live, the Salish tribe, that's a greeting of honor and respect for your elders. But I want to feel that way about my potential, my height. I like to think of that place where the 9th becomes the 10th, you know, quadrant midheaven, as the fruits and the branches of your world tree. And your angel being. And so here I reach up not only for that, but for mother, for father, to pick me up and help me be in that place of honor. And here too, as I'm just holding this posture until I burn and there's pain and I'm sweating while I'm giving back to this place, I'm asking for support. And sometimes I just feel burned, because I might not be walking in that path the way I know I can, you know. But when I get down on myself in that way, it's hand on the heart. Where was I 4 years ago? Things get a lot better. And also, I know that what comes up must go down. Must come back to rest. So the rise and the reach, you know, they're all blade, alchemically speaking. They up, evolutionary, up and out. And then the rest and the roots down, the chalice, yeah? Down and in, involutionary. We want these in balance, yeah? And we get the symbol of what? Heart chakra. So what comes up must come down. And from the reach, I west. And I like to feel it that way. Like reaching for my highest light, now bringing that ball of fire down into my own personal horizon. They say in Qigong, lower Dantian, right? That energy center of creation. And we can see as that ball's coming down to the horizon, the Libra glyph. And what about 7th house and relationship, you know, in the West? Because the earth is rising and the heavens fall, it's always relating. It's always marriage, you know? Marriage of heaven and earth. So we come home, we come back to level. Sunsets, that beautiful time of day, making our way to the house, partnerships, cook a meal, bounce the toddler on your knee. But either way, come down, you know, clock out. come into that rest and that family. And there's a lot of teaching there, and that's a thing that we do a lot of this in our world, don't we? Do a lot of rise and reach and height and blah. What if the top of the to-do list was chill out? For how can we receive these teachings if we're so busy? Oh, I'll go watch the east for 5 minutes. Nothing changed. Well, actually, it did. We can see it on the chart. Did you see it in the sky? Give yourself 4 hours. And the rise. And the next day or the next time, go out to the reach. The next time, go out to the rest and feel that energy coming down, back down. Chalice energy, down and in. And we bring that rest to the roots. And just like the reach was not straight above, to be in very special circumstances for the reach to be at the zenith. You have to be between the tropics certain times. Don't worry about that right now. Reach, rest, root is not straight below, in the northern hemisphere north, down through the ground in front of you. Southern hemisphere south, down through the ground in front of you. So just as in the reach, I'm kind of reaching for mom, dad, pick me up down here. Grandmother, grandfather, educate me, remind me, the buried ones, my ancestors, the wisdom of the earth inside the deep water that the roots drink from. Animals, plants, it's in our DNA. And just like this was the height of the light, the angel being, well, over here, swamp thing, my earth self, my animal self. We speak about the marriage of the angels and the earthlings and these kinds of things, So much energy is there. So we'll speak about connecting to Polaris, to North Star, right? Because there we can find these directions. But North Star up here, where the sky, that's not the energy of the north. The energy of the north for the northern hemisphere is here, through the ground, rooting in. So if we're looking to connect to the traditions, the roots, that's our mission here, at least from my point of view, connecting to the art of the chart as it was practiced and known before the written word. It's held in the library, Gaia's heart, the buried ones, the ancestors, in each of ourselves. And that's where the rise is coming from anyway, right? So if we're going to do something new, we have to connect to the elders, the ancestors, the swamp things, the buried ones. I mean, up here, if there's hardship, where was I 4 years ago? Well, down here, for me, connecting to my ancestors can be tricky. Not only in like recent history, but where was I 4 generations ago? Where was I 40? I don't know. The shamanic traditions of my genetic lineage, they were destroyed so long ago. It's hard to connect to, druids. Anyway. Who are the people of this land? What is the voice of this land? And how can I reconnect to that to bring a new way, to rise in a new way, to bring that to the reach, to allow it to rest, so that we can dream and see the visions of the ancient ones who are us, because we are all one. Or so says the 7th direction. Okay, so these 4, rise, reach, rest, root. My practice is very slowly to connect to these energies 4 times, once for each of the directions of the medicine wheel. Rise, reach, rest, root. I'll speak northern hemisphere, east, south, west, north. I'll speak astrology, ascendant, midheaven, descendant, I see. The crows say speak southern hemisphere as well, east, north, west, south, rise, reach, rest, root, ascendant, midheaven, descendant, I see. Rise, reach, rest, and root. So we'll look at the angles in the chart, those 4 R's. Rise, reach, rest, root, ascendant, midheaven, descendant, I see. Speaking about quadrant house systems, we'll use several. Well, we'll use a few different house systems during the course of this course. But I'll show you why I like porphyry, and the answer is because I can see it in space with my face when I'm on my game, and I hope to help you initiate yourself into that happening as well. Rise, reach, rest, root. Well, 2 more. The above and the below. And then the middle. Okay? So after I get this 4 times, usually in the direction of the north, but really it's happening everywhere, so I'll do it here in the east, reaching straight above while simultaneously reaching straight below. Zenith and nadir, the directions above, below. And letting them pull us, stretch us like a tree, becoming that world tree. You know? And this to me, it's like creation. We speak about Gaia and Uranus, heaven and earth, you know? Tankashila Unchimaka, grandfather's breath, and you know, earth herself. That's like Lakota terms. In Lakota, in Sweat Lodge, and in Nipi, you know, head on the ground before you enter, right, to the ancestors. Homi Takwa Oyasin, you know. And then coming in sunwise, and only leaving sunwise as well. 6 crows. No Hermes. This is one of the reasons why we come out to Earth to connect to these mysteries. Earth astrology. The stones will come in sunwise, and in men's circles, you know, in men's lodges. Actually, I've heard women speak about this too in lodge. You know, it's like grandfather, the stone, comes in, and it's like semen entering for the creation process, semen coming into the egg in a way, to this womb, the lodge. And this is what I feel in the above and the below, right? Because this is unique and different. Like I'm pointing up right now, you please stand up right now, reach straight for the sky. You are pointing to a different place than I am. Yeah? And I am pointing to a different place right now than I was when I began that sentence. Because the above is so dynamic, always moving, right? Why? Because the earth, spinning west to east, so we have the heavens east to west. But it's different now than it is now. Where is the same? For you, if you're standing up, whether you're listening to this at the same time as I am, which might be impossible, because I've pre-recorded this bit, yeah? But if we all stand up right now, reach straight up, we're reaching to different places, our unique, dynamic, ever-changing self. A lot of creation there, and a lot of creation here, down, straight below us, through our spine, through our heels, in that one place, regardless of where you are and when you are, we all connect in the heart of Gaia. I would say the egg of this creation. That's where we measure astrology from. We don't measure astrology from the surface of the earth, where we can witness the heavens. That's topocentric. Our charts are geocentric. Not only earth-centered, but center of the earth-centered. Why? That's where we are all connected. Here we are all different. Here we are all the same. We are all one. The planets, they're like timbres, instruments, the signs, like notes in this sacred symphony. This song is resonating in the heart of Gaia and broadcast to each of us at the same time. You know, from Earth's point of view, everywhere on the Earth, in the same moment, the planets are in the same signs, the same aspects to one another. What's different? The houses. It's as if we're surrounded by this symphony and my ears are here. So what if I turn this way and suddenly I can hear that bassoon player louder than the timpanis, you know, or whatever it may be. That's like the houses. And we know how important that is, how unique that is. Well, that's the Earth, because the Earth is the center of the chart wheel, the cross of matter, Earth, horizon, meridian, inside the circle of spirit. Sun, or Earth Sun, and this is what we're here to speak about. But let's finish with these 7 directions. So rise, reach, rest, root, above, and below, simultaneously reaching up and down and through and in. And see that down below, it's like this egg, as I said. Why? I mean, think about this, like biological creation, to my knowledge, unless you're doing crazy things in a laboratory, still requires semen and eggs, yeah? And so it feels this way to me. You know, women you're born with your eggs. What an amazing thing. And we know this trip about our grandmother's diet affects us because our mother was born with her eggs that became us. Half of us. What about the other half from the father, you know? So down in that place, that egg, that one, that center, mitochondrial, you know, and that place, just like the eggs, that can't really be seen, but is ever there. Where, you know, up here, this dynamic, ever-changing, it's like men, like, semen is cooked to order, short shelf life, 120 days. Now, that doesn't mean that the entire life experience and perhaps ancestry and lineage as a soul and everything isn't involved there, right? But there's an impermanence in the above, ever-changing, a dynamism. And that's how I literally like to connect to these 2 energies, like sperm and egg, in the above and the below. There's some traditions that looked at the above, Nut, feminine, below, Jeb, earth, as masculine. It's like Kemet, Egypt, you know. But so many traditions as well, Uranus and Gaia. And I feel that when I connect to these directions. To connect to the above, I lay on my back for 4 hours and watch the sky. To connect to the below, I haven't lasted 4 hours yet with my face straight down, but I keep trying. Here we are. So reaching up simultaneously and down simultaneously, and then we bring the above down while we bring the below up and marry them in the heart. And then you'll see, for me, I usually go left hand over right hand. And the reason why in the Northern Hemisphere I connect to these directions, and by the way, let me just say that this is the 7th, which is the 1st, which is them all. One heart, you know? Creation. Well, in the Northern Hemisphere I connect to Polaris, North Star. It's not the energy of the North, which is the roots in the Northern Hemisphere, down through the Earth. But it shows me how to get directions. And if I give my heart to North Star, I give my heart to South, the back of my heart. You know, to face north and to give my back to the reach, well, I have to face my shadow and look down there into the earth, you see. But up here, Polaris helps me get direction. And if I warrior out, I have north and south, and I have east and west. Well, the east only rises, and the west only rests, you see. What about in the Southern Hemisphere? There's no South Star right now. But there's a South Pole space, and we'll find out how to find it. All right? Then the back of the heart is to the north, and the left hand rises, and the right hand rests. So if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I would work sunwise, which is counterclockwise, rise to the reach in the north, to the rest in the west, to the roots in the south, the above and the below, and marrying those 2, and coming right hand, your rest hand, over left hand, your rise hand. In the Northern Hemisphere, rising in the east, reaching in the south, resting in the west, rooting in the north, above and below, that art of creation, and left hand over right hand, because the right hand is the rise hand and the left hand is the rest hand. You see that? It's actually just a new part of the practice that I brought in today. right? So you come to these temples and you get to learn. And when we hit record and share what we learn even more. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for tuning in. Love and planets. Love and planet.